Hello my friends and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today I've got a match for you on Star Watcher and I'm excited to see what goes down in this 8 versus 8 match. Spawning on the eastern side, representing our blue team dressed up in that Cortex uniform, it's gonna be Super Noob. Super Noob coming in with 29 true skill, plenty of chevrons to match, definitely well experienced in the game, playing in a backline position, so I'm excited to see what they're gonna whip out for us, whether it's gonna be some T3 technological shenanigans, whether it'll be some early aggression, maybe vehicle support, or whether maybe we'll see a little bit of airplay. Not exactly the air spot on this map, but could do with that Cortex commander. Oh, interesting. It also appears that today we also have Legion commanders enabled. Lovely. So we are going to see not only Cortex and Armada duking it out here, but Legion will be thrown into the fight as well, as we can see here from Smwen. Or S-M-E-Wen. Smwen. Spawning all the way across the map, representing the red team, dressed up in Cortex as well, it's going to be Exotherm, coming in with 33 true skill, very impressive, building that vehicle bay already, starting on the front lines here, going to be showing us what he's got. Do we have any Cortex commanders over here, actually in the exact same position on the map? We do have another Legion commander, rather, pardon me, going for that Legion bot lab. Legion is a fun one. Legion is, for anybody who doesn't know, Legion is a experimental faction that is still well under development. There's a lot of crossover between Cortex and Legion. You can see they share a couple of units here and there, but they do have their own fair share of unique and playable units. Things like the the Goblin. A light skirmisher unit. It is very powerful. It can outrange a lot of the early game units like the pawns and the grunts and all that. And it does a decent amount of damage too. Plus, for 25 metal, it's a very, very, very good scout unit. So I would definitely love to see a couple of those get out on the field because they can certainly do quite a lot of damage here. Already out on the map are some resbots trying to eat up some of this juicy reclaim here. You can see that there's tons and tons of energy to be had tied up in the trees here that are just chilling like a villain in this little pond here. We can go take a dip in the water. And if I do this, well, there we go. Now we can take a look from the inside of the Sahara. It's kind of relaxing when you sit in the pond, isn't it? Kind of looks like a nice little summer oasis. Reminds me of the deserts of Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Any of you guys enjoy that game? I sure enjoyed that game. I played the hell out of those games, both of them, and yeah, I really liked them. Kind of reminds me of the desert oasis. Little resbot here eating up the trees. Love to see it. Getting these resbots out early can seem like a tiny detail, but it certainly does make for some really important decisions later on. Let me just switch back into the right camera mode here, and there we go. All back to normal. A couple of rascals have already made their way across the map. Smellmax is trying to catch these. Not going to be able to. This guy makes it into the backline. This is an overcharged metal extractor, but it is slightly tankier than a regular metal extractor. Try to combine all my words right there. There will be a Hades pumped out here, though, to quickly dispatch of that rascal, and that is going to be all she wrote for that little scout's life. Now, other interesting things about Legion. For one, they get a medium rocket bot, so a slightly heavier rocket bot called a ballista. And it does quite a lot of damage. They have Centaurs, which are a fast-moving assault unit. They function similarly to the Blitz, which, speaking of, Tiger Eye has managed to sneak into the backline here and actually done quite a bit of damage, taking out 2 constructors and a whole bunch of metal extractors, doing loads and loads of damage here to the backline players. Very nicely done. Going to be denying quite a lot of economy with just 2 Blitzes. I think these have well earned their spot here, well paid for themselves at the very least. But yeah, Legion rather does have a couple of interesting options here. The Karkinos is good against big groups of units. It has a riot cannon as well as a laser, and the riot cannon, of course, is good against big clusters of units, and the laser is good against anything that has armor, like tanks, that sort of thing. Commanders are also very powerful. You can see that they fire a riot cannon. They also can shoot a napalm dart. Flies over and launches a little napalm missile that leaves a lingering field of fire. Very powerful. Cortex Commander should definitely be fighting on the front because they're just so strong. Right now, though, it's going to be up to Zorko, and it's going to be up to well, I guess Pool Boy, although Pool Boy is a little bit further behind than Tiger Eye, who does have his commander all the way up front here, and is going to be pushing out in, well, against the outside of this concave, right? He wants to build right here. If you give yourself enough surface area, you can get a really nice concave right up against this mountain right here, and that's going to be very, very easy to defend. Big aggression down south here. A couple of Hades encountering some of these pawns and quickly bursting them down. The Hades fires a little Gauss projectile, but it is very, very fast and very, very powerful. It's kind of the name of the game for Legion, is all their units are cheap and disposable, but pack a huge punch. So you sort of expect them all to die, but they'll go out in a blaze of glory. The Hades is certainly a very, very powerful unit, and you can see every volley that it fires shreds off just a couple percent from these blitzes, but they can dip into combat, fire away, and then roll back out as if nothing happened. They're a remarkably useful unit. In fact, I would say all of the Legion units are remarkably useful. They're all very, very powerful. There's a reason why they're still experimental. That's what I'll leave it at. Now, you have to forgive me if I don't have all their names memorized. I only spent the time to try and memorize all the Cortex and the Armada. I forgot to handle the Legion, so you're going to have to bear with me as I have to check all the time to make sure that I have the names right for all of those. There is a whopping amount of units in this game, and I just can't be bothered to go around and memorize every single one, at least not at the time being. I'm sure over enough time I'll probably just have it all ingrained eventually, but for the time being, yeah, I'm gonna have to select those units, right? Flat E building a little bit of static defense out here in the middle of the map. Zorko doing the same thing, building a little concave for his laser tower here. Trying to fortify up that little laser tower. Very nicely done. I've been playing a game that a viewer submitted, or a viewer suggested rather, during one of the live streams. There will be doing that later today. Wednesdays and Saturdays we go live right around 12 PDT. Suggested a game called Mindustry, and I've been playing that, and it's a blast. It really is. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Let me know if you enjoy that game as well, or if you'd like to see it. I've been considering doing a little Let's Play of Mindustry. It's it seems like it's going to be a massive game though, so I'm not sure how I'll do that. But let me know your thoughts down below, of course. Also, feel free to check out that Creeper World series, or just hit the subscribe button if you're just interested in daily bar content here. A couple of Centurions making their way downtown. Those little ugly cannons on their head fire a triple blast of a Gauss projectile, and we'll see here if they get a little bit closer how much damage you can do. Immediately ravages whatever they fire at. Such a powerful unit. You can see they put out such a huge amount of damage every single volley. So powerful. Centurions are the ultimate assault unit. They can attack while firing. They fire a massive volley of shots too. They're a extremely powerful unit. They're one of the units that I think will more than likely be reworked before Legion gets its full release. Yeah, I have a feeling this unit might see a bit of a change. Easily able to blast down this medium laser tower here, dealing with all of these constructors and whatnot. Need to micro these a little bit here. They are going to get eaten up, but that's okay. Yeah, Centaurs, man, very powerful. You can see they've already ravaged the base of Pope, but they're not really done yet. You can see this one's firing away at the T2 laboratory here. So expensive to lose this, right? Oh, heat tank getting a little bit lost here. The Seeker will micro this, and that is going to be the T2 lab, almost completed, going to be going down. That's so expensive. What a bummer. This lone Centaur has gotten so much value out for his team already. What an absolute champion. Not even done yet. Takes down a solar panel, takes down another metal extractor, scuffs up the metal storage. That's a lot of damage here. That's a really huge amount of damage here for the Seeker. You can see he's incorporating a couple of those ballista, those medium rocket bots. They fire a rockets. They're very powerful. They can fire from long range, and their rocket does quite a bit more damage than usual. It fires a lot slower, but that's, I mean, the price you pay, right? And I'm sure most commanders would be more than happy to pay that price, because more damage is typically a good thing. At least on the front lines it is. Pool Boy trying to fortify up the pool, ironically enough. He's got the water on lockdown with all these light laser towers, but his lane is actually looking a little bit wide open. Yeah, Tiger Eye has a lot of units that are starting to make their way to the front lines here. And Pool Boy is in a bit of a state. He's going to need some static defense to accompany his units in case there's a swarm of units pushing in, like rovers or something like that, which would otherwise just waste the effective shots that he has. Setting up a whole line of these beholders here. Interesting decision. They feel a little bit too far back to be worth anything, but I suppose you never know. Flat E getting a D-gun off against Zorko's units right there, manages to take down a couple of tanks I did see out of the corner of my eye. Meanwhile, a big tank push here, right down in the southern lane here. You can see that it's going to be our blue player, Ama 2017, going for a little bit of a tank run by here. Overwatch doing its best to try and flash down as many of these tanks as possible. And I do believe that eventually this will all be cleaned up by the forces that were pulled from the front line to deal with this. This would be a perfect time to get aggressive here with these units from Zorko. Because all of the units are pulled out of position here, you could certainly move in up north, try and find an opportunity lane. Instead, those units are going to move down south here, maybe reinforce this lane, try and prevent the counterattack. But all said and done, that is just a lot of metal that is now in Half Robot's control, and he's going to be able to easily eat all that up. He needs a constructor on the front line to help him eat all this, but I guess he's decided it's time for T2. I think I agree here. We've got 4 advanced solar panels, we've got way too many T1 solar panels, we've got plenty of wind power. Yeah, we've got more than enough metal stored in these T1 solar panels, as well as whatever's lying around on the floor up here to go into T2. This is a really, really well done T2 transition. On the front lines, usually T2 comes out of the back, but in this case, taking a really fabulous trade here and going to be able to afford it himself. Running a little short on metal, have to be very careful. Don't want to overestimate your advantage here. Missile trucks firing away as much as they can. Blitz is also trying to do their best work, but there's only so much they can do. Pawns are going to be pulled once more from the northern side in order to help with this secondary wave here. Half Robot should definitely try and de-gun these forces. I think that's going to be one of the only effective ways to clear this away, because he does not have a standing army. Again, all that metal has been going into his lab. Needs to eat up some of these solar panels here in order to fund the T2 lab, or at the very least fund the T2 constructor that he's probably going to try and pump out immediately afterwards. Exotherm's commander in a great position here. Will he take the opportunity, or will he let it slip? Looks like he's eating mom's spaghetti right now. He does manage to de-gun down 2 of them. Maybe a third. There we go. All right. Cleaving apart that little push right there. There are still 2 tanks, though. And I'm a little bit worried about what these might be able to do. Apparently right now, though, they have hit a little bit of an APM stall, and they are just going to chill out in the enemy's backline. There they go. Right into the commander's grasp. They're going to be quickly de-gunned down. Maybe not. Not going to be quickly de-gunned down. They're actually going to be able to continue rolling around. What an interesting little interaction that was. And yeah, now this tank is getting into the backline. No way it snipes that commander. It's about 3% per shot from one of these brutes here. Oh, and another tank managed to slip by too. All right. Well, suddenly what was effectively not really anything at all, a nothing burger of a push, has suddenly turned into a something burger of a push. Yeah, you can see pushing in with these units, actually managing to kill a couple of these metal extractors. Very, very powerful. Going to shut down the economy here of our red player, red team leader. T2 lab is out. We have not produced a T2 constructor yet. I think that should be the first thing on our docket here. Maybe producing a console so we can make some bots up on the front line might not be a bad idea either. Get a couple of those hounds out, some gunslingers out. Going to be a little bit cheaper than going into a full-fledged T2 vehicle army. Might save you a little bit of metal on the front line, and then, you know, you just reclaim all your opponent's T1 vehicles that you killed with T2. AMA 2017, little bit of trouble here as a couple of these light laser towers do start to flash down that commander, trying to get a decent trade wherever they can. Northern side is collapsing quickly. Yeah, oh, okay, interesting. That's an interaction that I did not expect. Beholders were revealed once the Januses rolled right over them, meaning that the Januses fired at it and friendly fired on themselves, blowing themselves apart. Interesting little interaction there. And actually, I think I quite like it, yeah. Wasn't expecting that whatsoever, but it did actually work out pretty good. Tiger Eye making sure to eat up as much of this wreckage as possible. I love to see that. Very, very important, especially if you're playing vehicles, that you try to eat up as many of those wreckages as possible. Using your commander or a constructor, or maybe even ask one of your teammates for a resbot would not be a bad idea either. Tons and tons of tanks have gone down over here. Not sure exactly what was killing them. I mean, we have a couple of Karkinos, which are flashing them down with their laser beams. They also have a riot cannon tucked into their shoulder. There you go. You can see it firing away there. Little cannon poking through the shield. It's very, very powerful. It has some impulse on it, so it can stun these units, right? It's very, very good. Medium rocket bot also very powerful, and it can just shell away from long range here as long as they don't go down. The Seeker needs to desperately reclaim all this, though, because he does not have... Oh, he does have the metal. Okay, I guess we're just waiting. Yeah, we don't have enough build power in the backline here. Yeah, we need more build power here. There are Twitchers coming up, which is quite nice. Hopefully T2 gets distributed to the team. But yeah, eating up this metal is going to really, really nicely fund any expansion going on in the backline here. We are quickly stepping into T2, right? We are getting into that stage of the game here. You can see, well, that's a bit of an awkward position on that, but the T2 labs are out, so T2 constructors should be walking around to basically everybody's base. Anybody who is not on T2 should be getting upgraded to T2. I see T2 advanced metal extractors here for our frontline players, so it does look like those are being shared around. Very nice to see. The Pope's still on just T1 metal extractors here. Not nearly enough energy production. It went to wind production, but yeah, wind speed is not super high right now, unfortunately. And tons of T1 bots are coming out of the base here from Flat E, who does not have T2. So the blue team currently has a slightly better T2 propagation than the red team does, but it means that they have a slightly worse position. The southern side looks a little bit better for the red team, as well as the northern front. Yeah, both of those looking a little bit stronger for the red team. Over the blue team looks like they're well underway in that T2 transition, at least a little more comfortably than the red team is. Now the red team has used that advantage to leverage themselves into T2, however, still producing out of the T1 lab, interestingly enough. We really should start switching into Tiger tanks, switching into some of those Mauser, switching into maybe an Ambassador or two, just for that long-ranged, high-damage potential. There are agitators out guarding the middle of the map here for the red team. So the blue team has a economic advantage, at least for the time being. Well, depending on reclaim. More or less, depending on how much metal is being pulled off the front lines here. You can always check the income values up in the top right-hand corner. However, the red team is pulling in quite a bit more energy, so that's worth considering here. Eventually, that will be translated into an advantage, but for the time being, it is just energy. Massive swarm of pawns rolling through here. Gonna take down that commander. Loses a lot of the pawns in the process. I'd love to see a lot of those pulled off before the commander dies, just so you can preserve a lot of your army. But either way, that commander kill is going to be well worth it, and that's going to relieve quite a lot of pressure from the front lines here. It's also going to leave open this lane to a whole lot of tank harass here. You can see Half Robot immediately moving these tanks through, going to try and get some damage done. Certainly has the option to. The T1 Legion vehicles coming out here, a couple of barrages, the Napalm Artillery. They're a odd unit because you can't use them to do direct damage, right? They're essentially damage over time, so you have to use them in a way that you can you have to use them essentially on the retreat or something like that. You have to make sure that your enemy is constantly kept in the flames, and they do decent damage when you can manage that. But if you're not able to, then yeah, it can cause quite a bit of a problem. It also makes it difficult for your units that now have to drive through the fire and the flames. Yeah, it makes it difficult for all that. And suddenly, yep, these tanks are well into the base here. There are fiends out that are eventually going to clean this up. The build power will pop. That's quite annoying. All said and done, though, I think these tanks were cleaned up well enough here. Yeah, fiends doing a decent enough job at cleaning up those tanks. I think that was a close one, but it definitely ended up being a positive trade here. Those cacophonies firing away, doing whatever they can. Commander wreckage is still lying on the floor here. I'd love to see Flat E move forward and either eat that or degun it, just to make sure that that can't get resurrected or reclaimed off the front lines. A couple of resbots there getting caught in the middle of the map. That's always a nice pick, knowing that you've removed that potentiality off of your teammates or off of your opponent's shoulders, rather. Artillery pieces, those Wolverines firing high into the sky, trying to do their very best. And yeah, this is quite nice. Using the Twitcher to build fiends is always a very, very powerful option, right? Those fiends, I mean, we all know just how much damage they can do, but when you pair it with a whole bunch of grunts, they're going to be a really, really nice unit composition here. Pawns jumping on top of missile trucks, it's actually a really, really nice trade. Yeah, actually, that's very, very nice. That was nicely done. Pawns kill quite a few of those missile trucks. That's going to shut down a lot of that long-range harassment. It's going to slow down the rate at which the units here are going to be able to tear down static defense over on this side. Bunch of these fiends jumping on top of Flatty's commander, burning it down in an instant, and that's going to be a commander kill here for the blue team. Bunch of T2 Tiger tanks rolling on down on the southern side, though. Not nearly enough static defense to hold back these bad boys. 3 by, X wind turbines. Three wide wind turbine fields will chain react with each other, and that's exactly what we just saw. Bunch of armed metal extractors, though, and they're actually quite tanky. Okay. I mean, they'll go down eventually, but they're putting up a good fight. Certainly wasting the time of these Tigers a little bit here. Not bad whatsoever. Heavy laser towers coming up wherever they can over here, trying to build some sort of a defense against these tanks here. But yeah, you can see shredding off 3 or so percent of health from each of these tanks. Not really going to be powerful enough, I'm afraid. Probably be better off just eating with the build power. Yeah, I think we probably can do more damage per second just eating with the build power than actually anything else. Build power will go down. It's too wide, so it did chain react right there. Fusion reactor gonna get sniped by all these Tiger tanks. That's a very, very nice run by, and these tanks have certainly paid for themselves. Gatling tanks, the medium assault tank here for the Legion faction, going to be trying to burst these down as quickly as it can here, but not the most accurate of units, right? This is a T2 advanced aircraft plant, so not exactly the biggest loss in the world. We can always resurrect this, but we don't have resbots available to us because we are so spec'd into air. Speaking of which, we do not have a fighter screen or anything like that, despite having the T2 advanced laboratory there, so that is a bit unfortunate. Napalm skirmisher bot's going to be trying to shoot away at any of these units, try and deploy napalm underneath their feet, and you can see it's actually fairly effective, burning them away quite quickly. Yeah, okay. Belcher, right? Yeah, Belcher. Going to be burning away whatever it can here. I wonder if the fire effect stacks. That's something I'm not certain about, but I think it does. It looks like it does more damage when more of those blobs kind of land in the same spot. So I guess it makes sense to have multiple of these units, because you really can, yeah, you can set an entire area ablaze and make it essentially impassable terrain. I think these guys should keep moving forward here. No reason to keep these stalled out at the moment. Just, yeah, keep them moving, keep them grooving, and eventually you're gonna melt down all of this relatively quickly. I guess these are the Sheldon equivalent. It's weird to make that comparison, but yeah, I guess that's where these fit in. They're like the Sheldon of the Legion faction, I suppose. It's difficult to compare Cortex and Armada sometimes, but it's even more difficult to compare Legion and Cortex, or Legion and Armada. It's a whole different ball game. I do hear, yes, the rail spiders. Railgun spiders, they're pretty powerful. They can fire at quite long range. They do a decent amount of damage, but they're definitely a damage over time unit, sort of like missile trucks, right? They kind of have to take a good engagement, and you want them to engage over a long period of time. Advanced metal extractor here, firing away at whatever it can. Going to be using those heavy rockets that it fires in order to blast down as many of these as possible. You see these tanks trying to focus down the metal extractor, but there's tons of blue tanks in the way, preventing that from happening. And now this thing is going to be doing quite a lot of damage here. Yeah, those metal extractors, I often underestimate them, but the advanced exploiter is definitely well worth its value. I mean, 2,400 metal is what you pay for it, but you get a very, very robust platform for it, so I would say it's probably well worth it. You're also probably going to scare the living hell out of every, every army that tries to push through there, just because of the fact that they're not going to know which of your advanced metal extractors are exploiters and which ones aren't. There's that napalm, and again, just slowly scorching away whatever is sitting on top of it. Yeah, the Belchers have a hard time attacking things that are moving, but they certainly don't mind attacking any sort of stationary object, and in fact, it will burst down stationary objects rather quickly here. A couple of these quad shots here, sorry, quick shots here. Going to be forced to pull away to try and deal with a bunch of these Tiger tanks that have broken through. Quick shots are very, very powerful. They actually fire a very dangerous burst of Gauss projectiles, similar to the Centaur, although a little bit more powerful. Pope's commander in a little bit of a situation here. Tons of napalm in all directions. Not looking good for him. He cannot escape the ring of fire here. And that is going to be a quick and decisive commander kill for the red player, or for the orange player rather. I know my colors, I promise. Tank will eventually be bursted down here by a couple of these quick shots, tearing it to shreds and eventually moving on forward. Southern side of the map has been ravaged here, so it's going to take a tremendous amount of effort from the blue team in order to repair that, that, I don't know, disadvantage, I suppose, repair that gap in their defenses. And the red team is doing a phenomenal job of pressing that advantage. You can see we've got Scorpion batteries set up here in case there's any sort of counter-aggressive. We've got the Seeker moving his commander forward, setting up cacophonies and static defenses, all sorts of stuff in order to ensure that there is a steady stream of units able to trickle through here. Now, I don't know if a steady stream is exactly what they're looking for. It's just what we see right now, but I think probably building up a wave is going to be the most effective way of dealing with this here. Of course, anti-air is going to be really important right now as well because of the fact that there's shurikens out and about on the map, and shurikens can nullify even the strongest of pushes just because of their paralytic capabilities. Czar's here caught in the middle of the map, and I'd love to see these bursted down by some of these Tiger tanks. No reason not to. He's calling for air here. Air certainly could come to the rescue. A couple of T1 fighters would have no problem shooting down a whole bunch of these shuriken relatively quickly, but you know, a missile truck or two wouldn't do too bad either. Tigers are jumping on top of all these Czars here, and they're going to burst them down relatively quickly. I mean, they're EMP'd, so they might as well be dead already. Northern side was pushed back a little bit, but there was a counter-aggressive here, as it looks like a couple of fiends from EQs, the hot pink commander sending some fiends through here and is going to snipe the commander here, Pool Boy, who goes down, and that is once again going to be the northern side in quite a lot of trouble. Belcher's here trying to quell the flames of these fiends that are marching through, but those fiends are quite fast, which means that they can get out of the fiery napalm area quite quickly here. Well, it's not going to matter if you cover the entire earth in napalm. I guess they're going to be forced to stand in it. That one died really quickly. So yeah, I think they do stack. I think the napalm effect is applicative, or is additive there. I think you can use it multiple times here. Quick shots trying to burst down whatever they can. They're very powerful for it. They're just not really taking the engagement that they think they should. They should be retreating with this tank line, right? They should be following the tank line backwards into the base. Not going to matter though. Shiva are pulled, and they are going to burst down all of these units relatively quickly, especially the ones that are clumped up here. See these tanks all taking that AoE damage. Ooh, Twitcher in the way here. Yeah, Cortex units don't really care about friendly fire. They're not really programmed for it. Friendly fire? You mean preemptive scrap metal. You can see the damage output from these quick shots is pretty immense. Like, they burst down those Tiger tanks very quickly. They're just also relatively fragile. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to make sure that you're using the mobility of those units and the strength of those units effectively. And you really, at all costs, have to make sure that you limit the amount of damage that they're taking, because if they can manage to fire multiple volleys, they're going to be in a really good position. Somewhere between like a sharpshooter and a I guess like a pawn or something. Like they do a big burst of damage, but not quite as much as a sharpshooter would. Anyway, Shiva going all over the map here, going north, going south, going all over the place, trying to clean up this mess. We need to see Resbots out. Resbots to pick up all this or reclaim all of this. Either one is going to be a great job. Resbots picking up these metal extractors would be well worth it as well. Just get a couple of those bad boys out, but everyone is going into vehicles right now, so we're not going to see Resbots, at least not for the time being. There's a couple of them that were produced here by our southern player, Shifty Someone. However, they're a little bit preoccupied, and also it's only 3 of them. We're going to need a whole lot more than that. Shiva not going to have any problems at all with this T1 static defense here. The Seeker also in a little bit of trouble here. This commander is very strong, but yeah, once you get into a certain stage, there's only so much the commander can do, right? The Legion commanders do not have a D-gun. They fire that little napalm missile that you can see right there. And it's powerful, but it's powerful over time. It's not powerful in the way that a D-gun instantly kills things. So the commander does fall off over time, whereas the other commanders are effectively as strong as they're ever going to get right from the get-go. The Seeker forced to move his commander back here. Now the Legion commanders do level up over time. They get railguns eventually, and they can build all sorts of other units too, so that's worth noting here. There are some starlights in the middle of the map, very, very nice, going to flash down a whole lot of those units. Very cool. Those long-range blue laser beams firing away at whatever they can. Exactly the response that we want to this heavy T3, and they will quickly burst down all of those Shiva, meaning that the Zars and the Hounds and the Maces and the Welders and the Pawns and the everyone else and their mother is able to move through the middle of the map here. The blue team needs to get this under control somehow, some way. Catapults might be a good option here, going for some sort of way to dish out some long-range firepower. It's going to outrange these starlights here and be able to shut them down. You could also go for something like maybe a couple of those Karganeth, try and sneak them around the side, take an engagement from a different angle. That's also another option. Resbots are on the field here, and they need to start eating 26,000 metal tied up in this field here. Very, very, very important that this reclaim field gets eaten up, and if the blue team isn't going to do it, then I think it is going to be their demise as the red forces come down to bear. A couple of bulls trying to push through the middle of the map here, but they're coming under heavy plasma fire. Persecutors all over the place, gauntlets, agitators from the early game, all of which happy to fire on these APM stalled bulls here that are just waiting around for their death in the middle of the map. Brutal to see. Half Robot's commander here in a little bit of trouble. There are plenty of bulls here to deal with this, but if these bulls jump on this commander, and if they're microed well enough, they can certainly kill it. I don't think they're going to get it, though. They get bursted down by all of those persecutors in the backline there, firing away. Yeah, we desperately need a catapult here. We're just throwing away metal, having these being bursted down by the starlights here, so we need to throw a little bit of metal into a long-ranged option, and the catapult is exactly what Cortex has. Commander just went down there. Looks like that was going to be Zorko's commander going down there to the forces that were pushing in from the blue team. There are some counter starlights. That's an option too. Didn't even think about that, but yeah, getting a couple of counter starlights out is also another option, right? Starlights can't retreat exactly. So yeah, that's certainly going to work. Resbots here are going to patch up this army right in the middle of the map, get all those bulls back up and running. Half Robot's commander a little bit far forward and not really covered by anything. Here's the starlights. I was wondering where these went. Yeah, not really covered in any sense here. Just hanging out in the middle of the map here. These starlights are so critical, though. They're preventing the reinforcements from managing to hit the front lines here. Resbots, of course, eating up a whole lot of the metal tied up in these bulls. One bull wreckage is 570 metal, which is absolutely nothing to scoff at. And we're going to need to see units, units, units. Shiva are the name of the game. Really would love to see one catapult. I can't get over it. Yeah, one catapult essentially wins you this engagement because it can fire away at these starlights and eventually burst them down. Starlights are very slow, right? So they don't really have a way to take evasive maneuvers. I suppose many, many Shiva will be another option, though. Sure. Yeah, just build 400 Shiva and walk them in. I mean, sure, you'll lose some, but it is a sacrifice you are willing to make. That is the Cortex doctrine, after all. Sacrifice as much as it takes in order to get the victory here. More metal, more problems. But yeah, the Shiva will manage to clean up all those starlights. That is Half Robot's army completely flashed, well, not flashed down, I guess in this case, completely bursted down, I suppose, by all those Shiva here in the middle of the map. Resbots, well, in this case Twitchers, accompanied by Resbots, are going to clean up all of this mess, feeding that metal back into the team's economy and overflowing to whoever should need it the most. Massive push building in the southern side of the map here. We can see tons of these Striders are building up here, as well as these railgun spiders. They don't have quite a name yet. Shotguns are included in this mixture, and they can do quite a lot of damage, actually. Shotguns are capable of dishing out quite a lot of powerful DPS here to units on the front line. They're one of those up and close skirmisher units. Definitely a frontline brawler for sure. Half Robot says, we are effed. There's a lot of Zars coming out on the field, but I don't know if that's really a efficient money spend right now. I think I'd like to see Banishers more than anything. Where are they? There they are. A couple of Banishers as artillery support here are going to be quite nice, going to allow you to burst down any of those long-range units. I think that might work out a little bit better here. Half Robot's still trying to rebuild his entire force of units here, although not building anything at the moment. Must have accidentally turned off production and didn't realize it, because Half Robot is just stalling metal right now. He's not building any units. Interesting. It's an interesting strategy. We'll have to see how it pays out here. Striders have made their way down south here, and they are running fast. Faces are passing, and they're bursting down whatever laboratories they can afford to. Yeah, they're going to get into the back line here. Going to pop all the build power, I do believe. I hope. There we go. Build power will go down, as well as a lot of these energy converters in their siege of bullets, their wave of bullets, their volume of fire, which is effectively their option here. See, when the shotgunners get real close to units, they can do a massive amount of damage. But that's, of course, contingent on them getting real close to units, and some units just won't allow that to happen. So half of the build power did remain here, so that's quite nice. We also, oh, well, one of the advanced metal, or the advanced energy converters did stay up and standing. That's a bit odd. We don't usually see the wreckages of those. Usually those just explode. But, sure. Shiva have walked through the middle of the map here. This terrain is, of course, crossable by our lovely Shivas here in the center of the map, and that's going to mean that they can get into the back line here. EQ says, I'm tired. WTF. No rest until the battle is over, Commander. As the Shiva continue to march on in, going to burst down whatever they can find over here. There's a whole bunch of hounds getting underneath their feet. Probably the most effective way the hounds are going to deal with these Shiva. Yeah, getting right underneath them and forcing those Shiva to shoot at their own toes. Eventually, I think these Shiva are going to be cleaned up, but it does force out a lot of units, right? It forces the commanders to pull units and try to deal with this T3. This is sort of a Code Red, DEFCON 5 sort of situation here, and so these units are forced to retreat here off the front and try and clean up whatever they can. Juggernaut was produced, and it looks like we're going for a second one here. Just going to go for more and more economy, more and more Juggernauts, more and more of everything that we can. Don't mind it whatsoever. Eventually, we're planning to go for a nuclear launcher in the back line here, too. Wonder if that's going to be able to get any value out. There are a couple of unprotected bases, yellow and light pink, as well as, yeah, the edges of a Spicy Wiener, Carlos Spicy Wiener. Certainly all going to be a little bit vulnerable to nuclear launch. In fact, this base is a little vulnerable, too. Yeah, not really perfect anti-nuke coverage here, so certainly a nuclear strike could be quite potent here. Nukes could also take out a vast majority of this force. I mean, they would scuff up a lot of these units that are underground, the Scorpions and whatnot, but they would also do a massive amount of damage to all the units over here, shutting down the T2 production at the very least. Yeah, it would be quite nice. Up north, Shivas are coming out for the red team. However, we do have that catapult support, finally. This catapult's going to be instrumental in keeping the advantage here. Yeah, you can see them firing away into the backline, scuffing up all those long-range artillery support units, doing an immense amount of damage to whatever is in the backline, and allowing these units to push forward quite comfortably. Very nicely done. Alright, mostly nicely done. Not perfectly done, but, you know, fairly done. Catapults can fire at immense range, by the way. Although they are about to friendly fire like crazy. Oh, there we go. It's a little bit worried there. Split firing now. Sending those rockets in all sorts of kind of directions. Really love the catapults here. Yeah, if it weren't for these catapults, I think this push would have been much less effective here. MUKADE is produced. It's a everything bot. It's got rockets, it's got railguns, it's got Gatling guns, and I believe it's even got anti-air. Maybe I'm wrong about that, though. Yeah, I am wrong about that. No anti-air, so just the rockets, the Gatling guns, and the railguns. A very, very powerful unit, but you need quite a lot of them. They're sort of a skirmisher unit, I guess I would say. A Helios, or not a Helios, sorry, an Incinerator is out. The barely mobile heavy heat ray. What a hilarious unit this thing is. It just fires a sustained beam of, well, heat, I guess. And it leaves a trail of napalm wherever it lands. A trail of fire and death and destruction. It's a funny one. It's a really funny unit, yeah. I think of it like the Inferno Tower from Clash of Clans. Anybody even remembers that game? That's an old one. I remember I got super good at that game. A little bit off topic, but I got super, super good at that game. I was like really highly ranked or whatever. I forget how the ranking system worked, but I remember I was like top of the leaderboards, like doing all this crazy stuff, and then I realized, wait a minute, this game is kind of pay to win. That's the word I'm looking for. Not entirely though. I don't think I ever spent money on that game. It was I guess it wasn't as pay to win as I thought. I don't know. A chump like me managed to get pretty high on the leaderboards and didn't have to pay anything. I guess it's not entirely pay to win. It's a good distraction. It's back in the old high school days, way back when. Anyways, Strider moving forward on the map. Why don't we talk about that? Got me reminiscing here. Strider's moving down on the southern side of the map here, and they're going to burst down anything that they can over here. Going to once again try and kill all the energy converters over here. That's quite nice. Taking a heavy hitting from that though. Oh, the micro could be better. The micro certainly could be better here, but these Seekers are right on top of this this advanced fusion reactor, and they're going to try and burst it down. Wouldn't mind seeing them try and kill the fusion reactor first, just so its splash damage kills the advanced fusion reactor. Might go a little bit quicker there. But either way, that's quite nice. That's a decent push right there, and it is going to shut down unit production from our, Seafoam player, I suppose. A little bit of a pause right there. Looks like everybody's okay, though. Units are seeping through in all directions here. MUKADE is pushing forward on this northern front here. Railguns firing away, Gatling guns firing away, everything in their mother firing away here. It's a very powerful Gatling gun right there. Oh, I guess it's just got... Oh, no, it does have two Gatling guns. So it has Gatling gun, railgun, rocket, railgun, Gatling gun. It's like a Gatling gun sandwich. What a cool unit design. I really like it. It's got a lot of potential, right? It's kind of an all-around unit. It can fire those rockets. It can do sort of like static defense in that way. It can fire those railguns to sort of stun units and hit those heavier units. And then it has those railguns to deal with like really light stuff. Yeah, what a cool unit design. I'm really a fan. Obviously inspired by centipedes, millipedes, that sort of creature, which is always just a cool design. Reminds me of those things from what is it called? Gears of War. Remember those enemies from Gears of War that were essentially centipedes, and the only way you could kill them was by shooting their tail end? There's a little glowing orb on the tail end, and if you shot that, it would pop the tail, and then the glowing bit would appear one segment further down. What a horrible enemy to fight, but really clever enemy design. Really love those guys in retrospect, but I remember I hated playing against them. Nuclear launch has been detected, and it's heading into the back of the map here, right into the corner. Well, certainly could have been quite a lot closer here, actually. I don't think he realized that there was no anti-nuke coverage over here. Just trying to put it in the corner in case there's no anti-nuke coverage over there. There isn't. However, there was even less anti-nuke coverage than he really estimated there. Anti-nukes are up now, and they're just waiting to charge up their missiles. They were just built, though, so I bet that nuke has more than one missile charged at this point. Not quite. We are waiting on the second one here. Didn't kill enough to rank up that nuclear launcher, which is a bit of a shame, because if you rank it up, it does reload quite a bit faster here. Let's see how the incinerator fares against this T3 composition here, these Shiva. Well, if it'll turn its head around, that is. It actually has a really hard time against them because it has to constantly aim. Oh, what a bummer. Yeah, I guess that thing is not exactly tuned perfectly here. I think the idea is it's continuously firing and like leaving behind a trail of fire, but it looks like it doesn't want to fire and move at the same time because it's constantly moving its head. I wonder if there's some way to change that code, program it so that it acts differently in a way that it would essentially just constantly be firing if it's, you know, pointed towards the enemy, essentially. MUKADE's here walking through the water, up, over, and around. They're going to attack this from behind, and that's actually a really nice push right here. Yeah, I'm really liking what's happening here. Rockets are colliding with all of this static defense. The MUKADE managed to shut down a lot of this from behind, shutting down the bot lab, of course, very nice. Going to shut down any of those res bots that were coming out of there. But yeah, that's actually a really nice push, and he's also found the opportunity path, right? So more units are free to come through there. Looks like the Hot Pink player has noticed as well and is going to start sending some Shiva in that direction. MUKADE are the only unique unit that the Legion faction can produce. They can also just produce all the Cortex units as well. So I wouldn't mind seeing some Shiva support for these MUKADE. But certainly the MUKADE are in a class of their own. They are a very unique unit, certainly. Behemoths are out, and there's not much that can stand up against their fake D-gun. Yeah, they're very powerful. Capable of out DPSing even a Juggernaut, I do believe. Super, super powerful unit. Oh yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. The incinerator should just be like constantly firing away at this behemoth right here. And it is, for what it's worth. Right now it's firing away. The DPS isn't super high though. It would be cool if these things had like a damage over time effect. So the more they damaged a single unit, the more damage they would gain. Shutting off several percent per second is nothing to be frowned upon here. But I'll be honest, I kind of expected a little bit more, I'm not gonna lie. I guess you get what you pay for, and those incinerators are not nearly as expensive as a behemoth is, so 2,300 metal versus 20,000 metal. Sorry, yeah. 2,300 metal versus 20,000 metal. It's a clearer way to put that statistic. Juggernaut battle in the middle of the map here. Gonna come down to numbers, I do believe. Although this Juggernaut is just walking forward. He knows what he's doing. This Juggernaut knows that if he gets close enough, it won't really matter how much health he has, because his in death does his duty end. 20%, 19, 7. Oh, just barely. Rocket does collide to take down the build power here, so that's quite annoying, but he will spare the facilities over here, and especially this Calamity that is coming up in the middle of the map, looking to end this match as quickly as possible here. Not going to stick around in this match as well. Doesn't want to stick around in this match as long as possible. Wants to get out of here as quick as he can. So going for that Calamity is quite nice. Resbots here are going to eat up this Juggernaut corpse. It's of course going to help fund this Calamity back in the, well, midline, I suppose. How far can this thing reach? Honestly, not really that far. Yeah. I mean, it'll take down this front line of static defense, I suppose, and maybe this line over here as well. But yeah, not exactly what I would consider the pinnacle of game enders here. Even if you're at the very edge, you're not really going to be able to hit very much. I suppose you could hit red space down here. Those fusion reactors are in range. You could hit the build power over here, which might chain react. Actually, you could probably reach basically all of Maroon's base as well. 2 kills for a Calamity. Is it worth it? I don't know. You tell me. I am gonna say no. Probably not. Probably not gonna be a game ender. There goes one of the Juggernauts in a nuclear holocaust. Resbots here, of course, capable of resurrecting these Juggernauts as well as repairing them. But they're much more happy to just go explode all over the enemy here. Juggernauts moving forward, trying to get a trade here. Vanguard coming up to the front, that's quite nice. Getting into that proper T3 unit saturation now. Karganeth on the front are quite nice as well, especially against ticks, because their missiles are heat-seeking there. Very nice inclusion on this front line. Karganeth, sort of the standard assault unit here for the Cortex faction. EMP missiles used even. Have Robot in a little bit of trouble as these Banishers fired on him. Now down to just 6% HP right there. Mass Juggernaut production though, coming out of the blue player here. Also going into Dragons simultaneously, alright. Okay. Behemoth has continued walking down south here. A D-gun is really what we're looking for at the moment. Yeah, we're not going to D-gun this. We're not really going to take an effective trade against this guy. I mean, bombers are going to do all right, I suppose. They're not really at risk when they're fighting it, but yeah, they're not going to kill it very quickly. Do we have a commander to spare, though? We really do not, actually. I'm just now realizing that the blue team is down to 1 commander left. Where is it? Ah, it's up here. Shmewen. SME-Wen. The last commander here. Very, very last one for the blue team here, whereas the red team does have up to 4 commanders. So actually, we don't have commanders to sacrifice D-gunning this. That is a bit of a that's a bit of a scary situation to be in there. You see where this thing fires, shredding off. Wow, what was that? Hold on, 75%. What does it go to now? 62. That's what, 10, 11, 12, 13% off of a Juggernaut per shot. That is massive. Massive damage. Behemoth will fall right there, and that is going to be all she wrote for that beast of a unit, leaving behind tons and tons of metal as well. 12,000 metal. Need to take out the wall cannon or we lose. Maybe. You might lose, but frankly, I don't know if you will. MUKADE is trying to fire away on the front lines here. Love to see these self-destructed a little bit easier, or a little bit more often. When you self-destruct them, the explosion radius is quite large. I mean, way larger. Like you can do a huge amount of damage. That actually took out a lot of that air force there. That's that might have even been a positive trade in the death of that. In the grand scheme of things, the final calculation. Calamity is up and running. The almighty wall cannon. Oh, build backwards. It happens all too often here. Set to fire at will. Really need to target fire that. Tell it what to shoot at, because right now it is just, you know, having a blast. Firing away at whatever it feels like. Shotgun up on this hill. It's a bit odd. Wonder how he got there. 3% health to his name. What a hero. Banishers can't quite hit him. The arc on their rockets is not quite high enough. Are we going to fire into anyone's base with this? What's the view currently? Ah, okay. We have no scouting, actually. No scouting here for the blue team, so this Calamity is actually unaware of exactly where it should be firing. Obviously, it should be firing right here and right here. Both of these areas would be great targets for it to selectively fire down, but we do not know about those areas yet because there's no scouting over there, so we really need to get a whole bunch of scout planes up in the air and send them on over. There's actually not very many air forces here for the red team, so a scout would probably work out just fine, especially if they were those T2 scouts, especially considering we have a bunch of dragons that we want to use as well. We need to figure out where the air defenses are the weakest and send these in to do some work here. Dragons, of course, extremely resilient. Very, very powerful. But, you know, eventually they'll be shot down by effectively any anti-air. They don't have any way to stop fighters, for instance. Juggernaut's trying to push in here. They want to break this wall cannon as quickly as possible. They EMP'd the wall cannon. That's quite nice. That's a very cheap way of shutting down a wall cannon. Just constantly EMP it. Yeah, all right, very nice. 30 seconds on that EMP, so that wall cannon is gonna be disabled for quite some time here. EMP is gonna shut down effectively everything over here. Takes down the shields, takes down the bulwarks. A little bit too late for all that, but yeah, keeping that wall cannon constantly EMP'd, not gonna be a bad thing whatsoever. Oh, he thought it was spy bots. No, it was just this EMP missile launcher right here. Would love to see this just set on repeat and just targeting the wall cannon. That'd be so funny. Yeah, it wasn't spy bots, it was an EMP launcher. Neither team really looks like they can break the other. I'm looking for the opening here, but there's so much T3 all over the map at this point that there's really not an option. Flying Fortress will go down. It's the Legion Dragon, essentially. Oh, Behemoth is marching forward, though. That could be trouble. Use your units, Carlos. Carlos Spicy Wiener. Looks like he has a bunch of Cargonet here, and he's thinking about deploying out to the field. Anti-air missiles will be able to eventually rock those dragons down to the foundations of their world. Bombers here are going to try and shut down these juggernauts that are pushing in. But I think this juggernaut is already too close here. Self-destruct. Self-destruct, Commander. He will not self-destruct, but will manage to blow up at least half that base there. Very nicely done. Oh, wait, what? Oh, that was weird. Could have swore that the blue team was on 0 commanders there for a second. You could back off and go check for me, but I thought I saw a 0 up there. Yeah, I thought there was 0 commanders, but apparently one of them came back up and online. Not sure exactly where. Oh no, it's just Smers. Smewens commander. Still available up north here. Although this northern front is rapidly fading here. Shiva are bursting down whatever they can. They've killed the production facilities here of Poolboy, and they're going to get into the economy centers of, who's that? Shmiwen's base here in just a moment. Nukes were launched on the front lines, bursting down whatever they could over there. That's nicely done. But there go the energy converters, and that's going to be all of Shmiwen's base going up in flames as these Shiva get just a little bit closer here. Not going to be too much time before these advanced fusion reactors pop like an overdrawn light bulb, and that will be all she wrote for our dark green commander. Boom. Down goes the base. Down goes the economy. The northern side has crumbled, and there's not really anything to stop it at this point. Titans are trying their best. We have MUKADE also trying to get in on the fight here, but I think the northern side has already just fallen to the, the immense swarm of grunts here. Looks like the Shiva will jump on top of Smiwen's commander. He doesn't have a D-gun. Remember, that's a Cortex commander right there, or a Legion commander rather. And that will be the last commander for the blue team going down right there, right as the Dragons are trying to make their way across the map. What a close match right there, actually. I think those Dragons could have done quite a lot of damage, but that grunt spam is just too overwhelming. Devastating on the frame rate and the game speed, but certainly very powerful and very, very difficult to deal with as well. You're gonna need a lot of medium towers, which are sometimes medium laser towers, which are sometimes very difficult to get up in that late game. Very nicely done by our red team, managing to snatch a victory out of defeat's ugly grasp and reeling themselves in here. Wow, blue with a fantastic economy here, but just overshadowed by the economies of the red team's players. For instance, EQ and Exotherm. Very nicely done. Very good to see, and a wonderful match. Hope you enjoyed. Feel free to smash that like button, all that funny stuff down below. Always helps these videos out a ton, but more importantly than that, I just hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Whoops, and I will see you in the very next video. Peace out, folks.